Face reality, people. Movies are dead. Games are dead. Narrative? Dead.
Media is nothing but neural trigger response and viral conditioning.
Wait, what are you two talking about?
All right, so we got another reaction here. This time it's movies and TV based, I guess, with Quentin Tarantino on why he thinks movies are better than TV shows. Before I even play the video, I like good writing, and I know that the styles are different, right? Because a TV show is trying to span for probably 6+ episodes, right?
Well, what about if you like good writing and it gets stale?
I mean, that can happen with TV shows, but that can happen with movies equally.
It can.
I mean,
But
within
it's
one
the-
movie, that can happen.
It's the cliffhanger to get you from one season to the next, and also allow you to remember what happened from one season to the next.
Yes, they will. Well, yes, they will typically tailor
The
content.
cliffhanger acts like you have a piece of metal on the left, which is the season you're in, and a piece of metal on the right, which is the season that's going to come next, and the cliffhanger is like the glue that sticks both of them
Okay,
in a way.
that can happen. But if you have a writer who has a clear vision of where they're going, just like
Well,
someone with a
yeah.
movie, that can work very well. And guess what? Movies have this thing where they have cliffhangers in the middle of their fucking movies. Take you from Act 2 to Act 3, or Act 1 to Act 2. That happens just as much, to be honest with you, especially in the modern ones. So I would never pick one over the other, as far as because I could see both of them sucking. I could see both of them doing very well when it comes to TV versus film. So I just viewed them all as cinema. And if you don't have the stamina for a TV show, it'll show. If you if you don't have the writing in a movie, it'll fucking show. Straight up. Or the concepts, right? So
Yep.
all right, we'll see the opinion here from Tarantino. As you said, what, Rogan's not going to say so much? Good.
No.
Good.
Very quiet.
Keep his fucking mouth shut. He used to insult Tarantino. He used to insult movies and celebration of film and TV and all that shit. And acting's easy. I think I heard some of Joe Rogan's prior statements that he's now reneged on. He's a fanboy of everything apparently now. So congratulations. All right. Here's the reaction. I have not seen this yet. Quentin Tarantino on why he thinks movies are better than TV shows. Here we go.
Experience.
I'm expecting dumb guy
Television, at
logic.
least the television I grew up with was all about like the familiarity of returning to the characters you love.
Yeah, but there was plenty of characters.
Yeah.
And you did get to return to the ones that stuck around and didn't get their heads
I
lopped
just wish
off.
they killed other characters.
But let me give,
Talking about Game of Thrones.
I love that.
let me give you another. Let me give you another example of my. Everyone talks about how great television is now, and it's pretty good. I got to say, it's pretty good, but it's still television to me. And what's the difference between television and a good movie? Because a lot of the TV now has the patina of a movie.
Mm-hmm.
All right, they're using cinematic language, all right, to get you caught up in it, and obviously I'm talking about good shows. We're talking about shows that you're
Ozark.
We're talking shows that you're compelled to watch.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. And so okay.
Sorry. Ozark is sorry. It's an entertaining show. It's interesting to watch. It's not god tier storytelling. It's just not.
No.
It's just not.
It's not.
So
Formulaic.
I would not use Ozark as an example.
It's very ABCD kind of show.
Your show needs layers. Like as far as greatness in TV, it needs to be complete. First of all, complete from beginning to end. Needs to be complete, right? Plot needs to make sense from point A to point B. Okay, but there also needs layers of storytelling, just like any film needs. For me, at least, to call it like great. So, like something like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, there is no cliffhanger. Like, I guess there's kind of a cliffhanger, but it's not really a cliffhanger at the end of that show. It's very. You get from point A to point B. You get character development. You get plot development. you get subtext, you get the whole fucking shebang. Like that could easily be turned into a movie, and they just like condense it to 2 hours or 2.5 hours or something like that. So it's just great writing. Period. So using Ozarks as an example, I think you're gonna fall on your face there. Or if you use like Game of Thrones, with considering what happened with season 7 and season 8, you're gonna end up falling on your face. But if you can show a complete show from A to B, like how complete the show is, like yeah, that can work, and it's comparable to any property anywhere.
What about, because they brought it up, not in this video, in the comment section, what about True Detective season 1?
Yeah, that's an A to B story, complete subtext, yes. Then all the other technicalities of cinematics and acting and all that shit, and plots and character development. Yeah, it's all there. It's all there.
Because at the end of this video, Tarantino's going to bring up a show that we would consider as dog shit. But he makes a good point about the first season of it. Or it's like, how do you continue on from this?
Okay, fair enough.
And that's how he's going to highlight his problem with TV shows.
Okay.
But like saying that's universal. It could be movies can present the same problem.
Yeah. Well, I just don't want them to bring up a dog shit show and be like, oh well, in like a dog shit show that's like popular, right? Like, oh, everyone loved this, but we all recognize like it's kind of a dog shit, like writing and storytelling. It's like kind of dog shit. It's mediocre at best. I don't want that to be brought up as an example of like, here's why TV shows are never as good as movies. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear like, judge the top of the top when it comes to TV shows with the top of the top of movies. I don't think there's that much separation between them.
You might as well turn this off right now. Then he's going to do exactly that.
Let's hear him out though. Hear it out. Here we go.
That you're compelled to watch.
Right.
All right. And so I'll use an example of a show. I'll use Yellowstone. I didn't really get around to watching Yellowstone the first 3 years or so, and then I watched like the first season. I go, wow, this is fucking great. I've always been a big Kevin Costner fan. He's fucking wonderful in this. All right, and I got really caught up in the show and everything, and all of a sudden I'm having a good time, and I've got a couple seasons I haven't seen, so I'm watching it, and in the first season, I'm kind of talking about, oh, this is like a movie. This is like a big movie. It's like a big movie. And the guy who writes that is a good writer. There's good, like, punchy monologues and stuff.
He's mocking them with
watching, like,
is that not a fucking side slap right there?
It is, but it
punchy
is
monologues.
How could you tell? He's so serious about
it. Yeah.
He said it so matter of factly.
What do we do now, John? Well, it's time to go to work. Punchy dialogue. It's like, go on.
I think he's serious.
I think he wants to celebrate all cinema. He's probably at that, that age or that time period of fame where it's like everything's great, everything's a celebration, and I'm just a hungry kid who's like, "Fuck it, it's fucking stupid, Quentin. It's dumb. Call it dumb." But whatever. Here we go.
Monologues and stuff. So then I end up watching like 3 seasons of it, and then I even watched that 1883. Was this is like a good Western show. I like Westerns, but then after I've watched like 2 or 3 seasons or 1 season of 1883, look, while I'm watching it, I am compelled. I'm caught up in it. But at the end of the day, it's all just a soap opera. They've introduced you to a bunch of characters. You actually kind of know all their backstories. You know everybody's connection with everybody else, and they spend some time selling that out. And then everything else, is just the compellingness of the soap opera, of what's happening to this
what's
character.
Different between that and a film?
Well, I'll tell you, because the thing is, what's happening.
Before I goes into that, I think I've said that many of times. In fact, when I talk mockingly to Ghost about her favorite like movies or TV shows, I'm like, oh, it's like a character get along. Like you're here for the characters. You see what happens to Johnny or Susie, or does just Johnny break up with Susie type of shit. I'm like, that's not good enough for me.
Jimmy die off a horse. Jimmy fall off a horse and die.
Or it's like, it's like very soapy, I guess. Enough. See, I've made no movies in my life, but yet you just observe that and pick up on it. All right, here we go.
Everything is just the compellingness of the soap opera,
Right.
of what's happening to
And
this
what's
character.
different between that and a film?
Well, I'll tell you, because the thing is, if you watch Edge of Night, Monday through Friday, you get caught up in the dramas of the family and everything.
Right.
But you don't remember it 5 years from now. You're caught up into the minutia of it at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the difference between is I'll see a good Western movie and I'll remember it for the rest of my life. I'll remember the story. I'll remember this scene or that scene, and it built to an emotional climax of some degree. And the story is good. It's not just about the interpersonal relationships. The story is good itself, but there's a payoff to it. But there's not a payoff on this stuff. It's just more interconnectional drama. And while I'm watching it, that's good enough. But when it's over, I couldn't tell you. I can remember who the bad guy was in the first season of Yellowstone because it was Danny Houston. I remember him in it, but I don't remember any of the details of it, and I don't remember any of the bad guys for season 2 or season 3. It's out of my head. It's just completely out. And same thing with 1883. When I watched the whole thing, and that was that seemed like a movie, except I don't remember. Sam Elliott's about the only thing I really remember of it when it was finished. But now. Red River, I remember for the rest of my life.
Isn't that though because?
Okay. I 100% get what he's saying. I get what he's saying with that type of appeal to of a TV show, right? Where it's, I think I made fun of like Battlestar Galactica before, or like Sci-Fi Channel stuff, and it's like, oh, the character, you fall in love with the characters, and you're following their kind of daily banter and experiences and adventures they go on and shit, versus like really being ingrained in the story itself. Now, with that said, like there are shows that actually do that actually kind of get you ingrained with the story they're telling. Like when we were watching Angel, I could point out every little detail what's happening with the show. Yes, they do have the character camaraderie thing, right? The Joss Whedon special, where the characters become likable, and then you want to see them interact with each other. You get that, but there's also a story being told, a silent thread from one episode all the way to the very end. There's a thread that's there.
I have to step in for you have not watched Battlestar Galactica. It has a
I
thread
have
all the
not.
way through.
I have not.
It is one thread the whole way.
I have not seen it.
All 80 episodes.
But it looks like character minutia shit. It seems a little bit like it. Like, is Johnny dating Sally? Like, type of shit. I can't say I know. I have not seen it, but it looks that way. Like, the team up shit. You know, the team up style of TV shows. Or even like Firefly, right? Which is another Joss Whedon special, where it's like the characters, you end up seeing their interactions and getting to know, like, oh, I like these characters. This is fun. But you don't know, like, what's their point, though? What's the point of them being here? What is this? Okay, I get it. They're space cowboys, got it. Or space scavengers. But whatever. There are shows that blatantly are not that. As I've mentioned, a show from this year, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Like, yes, you do care about the characters and their interactions, but every thing they do in the show is actually important to the story overall. It's important to the show itself. It's not just banter for the sake of banter. It's actually storytelling. Even when they're in their little quiet moments, when they're not on a mission and they're actually interacting with each other, like those play a role in the show. In fact, it all culminates to the conclusion of the show where they both get, this is gonna sound stupid. They both get stabbed with the truth serum to tell each other like exactly what they're thinking and feeling, and they have to reference past episodes and yada yada yada. Like, it's like complete storytelling to me. So it doesn't like. I think Yellowstone's just a terrible example to use for making this point. I think, and it's a terrible example of the show. Like, I mean, I guess it shows what that kind of soap opera lack of thread in regards to storytelling thing. But is that an example of like how TV is so much different than movies? I don't think that's a great example to use
No,
at all.
it's a example. It's not
Well, it's
the
a
best.
popular show. It's popular, but that doesn't mean anything about quality, right?
No.
Fucking Top Gun Maverick's a popular movie. Is it in that class of like
Quality?
all-time
No.
great films? Like, no.
No.
In fact, actually, that's a perfect example because those movies do that. The Top Gun movies, which are like oh Ace, or they all have like nicknames. You get to see them all go to the bar together and get into a fight with the Navy or something. Like, right? It's like they actually have those type of TV team up movie style feelings, or even the Marvel series with the Avengers, the little team up things. It's the same thing. You build a love for the character instead of like in the soap opera of them, rather than like the importance of like the moments they're in. Right? It's like, who cares? Where's Thanos? When does Thanos happen? I already forgot about what happened in Captain America: First Avenger. I forgot what happened in that movie, but I do know what happens when Thanos shows up. Right, the kind of season finale, if you will. They actually worked movies like TV shows in that regard. So, it is what it is. Let's hear more, I guess. Here we go.
Because it's a different thing, right? Because when you go to a film is designed for one sitting. You sit down in the theater, you're going to get the entire encapsulation of what happens to these characters in 3 hours.
Okay, I'll give you an example of one that is more than a soap opera, and here's the difference. Here's the difference. Okay, because you could say that. Look, they're in the soap opera business, but I'll tell you one that's not. Okay. If you watch that first season of, now here's one that really works like a movie. If you watch the first season of Homeland.
Oh, yeah.
Homeland.
That first season of Homeland.
First season's incredible.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
very good.
When it gets to that final episode of the first season, and he's got
Brody's a terrorist.
The suicide vest on, and he's
Yeah.
in the room. He can kill the guys that he's been waiting for to do it for the whole movie. And you don't want him to die, but you kind of into him and you kind of want him to pull it off. And then his daughter calls him on the phone. Before he does it, she doesn't know what he's going to do, but she gets that little sense from him that something's weird. She goes, Dad, you need to tell me that you're going to come home right now. You need to tell me right now that I will see you later tonight. And the entire series has been built to this scene. And it's one of the most emotional scenes I've ever seen in a movie, any TV show I've ever seen dramatized. I've ever seen dramatized. Now, that was a movie.
Yeah. Right.
That was not a soap opera. That built
saying.
to this moment of him being in that fucking room with the suicide vest on. And there was complexity. She doesn't know what she's asking, but we do.
Right.
She's stopping this major thing, and she'll never know that, but we do.
Right.
And he's still committed.
That's
but he's more committed to her, and we know
That's
that.
cinema, bro.
That's just great shit. That's a movie.
Right, and you can't.
Okay. Shit. I don't know exactly what he's saying, where he's going with that.
He's saying that everything led up to that point where he had a conflict of he was basically captured by the by Al Qaeda, an Al Qaeda like organization in the Middle East.
Yes, Brody.
And at the same time, he left a family behind.
Yes.
He left a life behind. And when he comes back, he has to pretend that he is still the man that left that family and the life behind, but he has a mission. And then throughout the course of that first season, it's like he's having like internal battles more and more about fulfilling the mission of the suicide bombing. But at the same time, he's also thinking about Carrie. Thinking about Carrie, and he's also thinking about his family.
Yeah.
And so that becomes a conflict for him at the end of the show, in a way, because it's not really the way Tarantino's saying it. They wrote it like, even though he didn't kill He didn't do it. It wasn't necessarily the bomb didn't go off. He clicked the button.
Yeah.
And the bomb didn't go. It was no, my bad. He clicked the button and there was something disconnected. And then when he connected it, he didn't click the button. Actually, that's what happened. But he told them after the fact that it malfunctioned. But anyways, that was like the conflict he was at. The more time he spent around his family, the less he wanted to kill himself.
Yeah.
For whatever reason he had.
Which is, I'm trying to think of what the leading up to there. Does Tarantino care about the kind of the dumbness that leads he got captured and now he's Stockholm syndromed with Al Qaeda to where he's
well no he did get Stockholm syndrome, but it was a drone strike that killed the kid that he grew close to. That was the Al Qaeda member's son, and he vowed to take revenge for that kid. And in a way, the Taliban was manipulating him through that.
Okay.
Because they were trying to make it seem like what happened.
I find that very cheesy for me personally, but
it was cheesy because it's like it because at the same time it's like, oh, they're but at the same it didn't seem like he cared about the kid. His own son, his own father didn't seem to care, but in a way about the kid.
It seems like I don't know, carefully coordinated way to say what a character will do in given scenario, but and it's just playing on our own, I guess, sentimental nature or something of oh, he grew close to kid dies, he wants revenge for the kid he grew close to, Last Samurai style thing or whatever, right? I don't know, man. I guess that's interesting. For me, not so much, but I get the point where Tarantino's going with it. I get that point. It's just I think I don't know. Is he trolling? Homeland? Really? You want to talk about soap opera? Look at the events that we just laid out. Guy gets captured by Al Qaeda or the Taliban or something. Grows close to a kid. Kid dies, and then he has to go. He's gonna go back home and blow himself up and kill whoever the fuck, some leaders or something, some U.S. leaders.
He's gonna kill.
Is that not a soap opera?
He's gonna kill the guy that's trying to become vice president. That was Hillary, and order the drone strike.
Yeah, is that not soap opera to a fucking T? I don't know. I guess he's talking about conclusions, beginnings and conclusions of storylines is what he means. Walking Dead, every season needs a new villain type thing.
And you're saying the way you get there is the journey to get there needs to be profound. It can't be trivial.
It can't be tacky. That shit's fucking tacky, man. Because it's just contrived for auto character responses instead of feeling like the character's a little bit more organic feeling. The character it kind of is who he is instead of events making the character this or that. I think that always comes off as tacky to me. Jim Carrey was bullied or no one believed in his science, so he became the Riddler. It's kind of tacky looking to me. I don't know. I'd rather have a character that's somewhat developed or somewhat is that person, and then we kind of piece together who they are as time goes by, instead of events kind of dictating it. Which to me comes off as soap opera-y, right? Because they kind of take your own sentiments for granted. Oh, why does he want revenge? Well, his parents were killed like this, and so he will get revenge. It's that's kind of tacky.
You would say you would draw a parallel to when Cersei's killed Daenerys' right hand, the girl, and so that made her become the Mad Queen, essentially.
Yeah, that's very tacky. But if you could tell, let's say at the beginning of the show, where you see Cersei does some ruthless shit throughout the show, right? But she was already ruthless. She just needed events needed to play out for her to showcase how ruthless she truly is, right? Or Ned was already honorable, but events had to play out in order to showcase where he was with his honor, or maybe when he betrays his honor for the sake of his family, right? He's willing to lie and say like, "Oh,
that's my son.
Joffrey's the true king," and yada yada yada, right?
Or also with Jon Snow, where he's willing to lie about how Jon Snow came to be his bastard son, even though he really wasn't his bastard son.
Yeah, protecting him, like for the sake of honor, or whatever. Like a little more complicated version of honor. Like same thing. Like the characters, I want the characters to kind of be who they are, and then we kind of just find out why they are the way they are. I think that's more interesting to me. That's less soap opera like. Although there can be events where someone gets turned around, I'm not going to deny that, right?
Yeah,
but that can't be.
That's a very delicate thing.
I think so, man. I think it needs like a certain touch with your hands on it, bro. Pause.
Would the leftovers be an example of something that kind of just like there's a circumstances, but they're just there to show what they are and their inner conflict. Like each
Are
person.
you talking about the cult?
Well, all of them. Like they explore like how everybody handles things. It's not like they weren't just forced by circumstances. Even though there's enormous circumstances, they weren't forced to all behave in a certain way. They each handled it the way that they.
Because Kevin is basically like he's living his life from the first episode. So like I'd say till the end of season 2, he's living his life in turmoil, in constant turmoil, where he has like an existential like thing hanging over his, and he doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
And then he's put into situations where like with his father, when the lady tried to make him kill her, and he wouldn't kill her, and then in the next season, he had to kill her to go back to his family in the I guess the shadow realm or the other world.
Yes. Well, Kevin was never a hero. He's kind of a hero. He's a protagonist, but he's not a hero.
Yeah, he was never a hero. He was like a witness to the facts, up to the things going on.
It's like the show deemed him as like the chosen one, but he's maintained his Kevinness. He's like almost like non-believing of it.
Yeah,
if you will.
Like, why me?
Yeah. So he had no like real he kind of maintained kind of who he was, at least throughout those a couple seasons or whatever.
Actually, Nora is a better example too. His second wife.
Yeah.
To where she's put in a situation and she more or less didn't change.
Well,
good.
Well, I thought she kind of changed. Well, by the end, she changed the most. I think in that she always wanted like things to be like the facts.
Yeah, she was yearning for something.
She wanted things to be straightforward. The facts. This is how it is. Like like that's what she did when she collected like the surveys and she talked to people. She was trying to let them know.
Yeah.
They're either they're gone or the story with the balloon.
But at the end, but remember, while she was doing that, she meets Wayne, and Wayne kind of wrecks her, even though like she picks the pieces up. But then
but at the end, like she switched into like going from like hard facts to like
that's
no,
what
let
I'm
me just
saying.
believe this. Let me
Yeah,
just.
that's what I'm saying.
She flipped. She had a like a pretty big arc.
Oh yeah, like that. Like I'm not against that. Even with the Game of Thrones example, something like Jaime, right, where he goes through an arc, but you can kind of tell, like, oh, he's not like an absolute piece of shit from season 1. Like he's kind of an asshole, but he's like a brash asshole. Like you could see room for like oh, he's also like maybe he's not the worst guy ever, right? But he's like an asshole.
You see signs like when he's fighting Ned and some dude takes a cheap shot on Ned, and he beats the shit out of the dude. Like he wanted it to be as pure as can be. I beat you or you beat me. It's not
yes,
like no games. Like Cersei would play games, or Joffrey would play games, or even his father. his father would play. He wouldn't play games.
Yes, or the way he treated Tyrion, where
Exactly.
everyone kind of treated him like shit except for Jaime, and there was like some sort of honor for Jaime to be doing that. He has like a sense of loyalty or something to him.
Yeah.
That isn't just pure, ruthless. Let's just win, for the family's name. It's interesting, very interesting. Yeah, man. But okay, character changes. Let's go back to the main topic. Character changes in like a show, which it happens in movies too. But let's just say shows.
I don't think he's looking at it deeply though. I think he just means from like a start to conclusion kind of thing.
I think he means something
Like
like
a linear story.
Something that's logically consistent. I think is what he's maybe going for. Even if the circumstances are kind of silly, like a guy gets caught by Al Qaeda and then joins them or something, he then agrees to suicide bomb vest himself or whatever. Like that's kind of like out there crazy. Like for me, I'm like that's kind of soap opera. Like that's kind of a crazy scenario. But I think he's just talking about like okay, logically, consistently, like we get an A to B, we understand exactly what the character is
going through.
We know his motives. If they have to show you plain as day, kid that he clearly likes gets bombed or something, like, oh my god, now I'm in Al Qaeda now. It's like still, I don't know. For me, I don't know, man. I'm rambling at this point. I think it's just tacky looking.
I've really changed my perspective on TV in the past maybe couple of years because, well, movies always had the big budgets, right? They had the big actors, and now they do that with television.
Yeah.
But what I see it is it's difficult to be consistent throughout like a series or especially if it's multiple seasons. Like how often they fumble at the very end, right? Like how or can you keep adding seasons and still be, like not just kind of going through a formula. Like it's a lot of effort, I think.
That's why I brought up.
I think it's the same as a movie for me. But God.
No, I was gonna say that's why I brought up True Detective, where it's like almost like the limited series work the best in a way if they're done right, because there's less chance of fucking up.
Well, I mean, the guy you're talking about, the fucking bartender guy, right? Who sat down and wrote a fucking story out. Guess what?
Yeah.
He knows as far as season 1 goes, he knows every little angle of the characters, of their arcs, of the fucking background characters' arcs. He knows all of it. That's someone coming with a complete idea, off rip, kind of. That like Game of Thrones, what was it based on? The fucking book, right? Or the first seasons, all based on the books and shit like that, right? Until a certain point, they had to start making up their own shit. But right there was like a thought out thing. It was already thought out, just like a movie. When you go from beginning to end, no matter how long, an hour and a half or 3 hours, doesn't matter. Like if you have here's my idea. It's thought out already. I know exactly what happens to it. All these characters that I want to, bring to the front of the table, like give them shine, make them like main characters. I know exactly what happens to them. I know why it happens to them. All of it. Like that's it, just walking in with a complete story. You could do that with TV shows. It's just sometimes you just want to get something out, right? Maybe someone makes a pilot and they're like, hey, check out this idea for a TV show. They watch the pilot, okay, greenlit. And they're like, fuck, I gotta write 9 more episodes for this. Fuck.
It's not an ideal way to do storytelling.
I mean, it's just the way they're doing it. I think in a business sense, the way they're doing it. That's why it comes out as crummy, kind of. And you can see their writing in the script. You can see their hands on the script. Like, yo, we need this tree to fall over and hit this guy in the head so that he dies, so that he's not here for the last episode because we need him dead.
We need this guy to get a heart attack in the middle of a fight so he can end the show.
We need this character to be at point 0 over here. We need him to be at that exact location by episode 9. How do we do that? Well, let's just make some shit up and we'll make them end up there. Like those are the bad things. When you have someone who like seemingly sits down and develops an entire thing, beginning to end, before they show up at the table. Like, I have this idea, and it's fully, completely written out already. Fully, completely written out. That's when you have gold, I think. And you can see it with certain shows. Like I said, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you can see the DNA from their last episode all the way in their first episode. You can see it transverse the entire show. You can see it.
The night of.
The night of. Like, these guys, it seems like they have a clear idea of where they're going, right? And what they want to do, and how the characters will react. You all have to do is get actors that can just portray that for them, right? And cinematography that can capture what the feeling they want to, show the audience or whatever. That's not a TV show problem. That happens in film all the fucking time. Where you see them trying to end the movie. They don't know how to, but they're trying to end the movie somehow. Like, oh, fuck. Okay, that guy he gets his shot or something, or a building falls on him over there, and boom, bad guy's dead.
And also,
movie over.
Also, it's like listen to the messenger. Tarantino's like a fucking like Bill Belichick. Like his hand is everywhere on the operation. Every part of it is him. Yeah. So whereas if you're using, like, I understand, like, he's bringing up other things, but at the end of the day, he's also tapping into his own psyche. And his own psyche, he's like, no, you can't make it like that because this, and that. He himself probably is thinking, I can't make a TV show the way I make my movie.
Yeah.
And I can't make it as impactful.
Well, his type of story, it doesn't enter the epic category. I mean, I guess Kill Bill would be something that would be closer to that. But for the most part, I think he'll think of, like, how do I end this movie? Huh. You know what? That'd be hilarious if I did that. I think that's how he thinks. I think that's exactly how he thinks about it.
That's what I'm saying. And he's bringing up, but you keep saying he's bringing up cheesy and, like, sleazy kind of examples, and that's him.
Possibly.
That's what he like. That's his shit. What did him and Robert Rodriguez collab on? Like, very cheesy, slapsticky things. Like, that's Tarantino in a nutshell.
But I think he has fun by his own. Like, there's no one forcing his hand. He has fun with it.
No. Well, that's what I'm saying. You always want the authentic attempt, no matter what it is.
Yes, exactly. And
whereas, yeah, if you have suits trying to follow that model, good fucking luck.
Yeah,
you're gonna get a committee of writers, committee of directors, like, especially on TV shows where it's like they throw the kitchen sink at these things.
Well, these robots can't come up with something. Hey, why don't we just? What if we just shot Hitler in the face right here in the scene? Just end the movie that way. Like, dude, the robot suits can't come up with that shit. They wouldn't think to do that. Tarantino would. Like, he's a little more of a punk rocky style director, right? Very loosey goosey with his style. I'm like, yeah, he could do that. It comes off as funny, creative, interesting. Maybe even piss you off sometimes. I don't know. But it's still like his that's kind of his style of things.
He'll scalp some Nazis.
But it's not full blown like someone like, hey man, take me serious for 2.5 hours of your life. Take me completely serious. Like, it's not that either, though, right?
No.
He doesn't make movies like that.
No.
He doesn't make like epic Nolans or Aronofsky movies. He can't do that shit. Or I haven't seen him do it, at least. So maybe he's okay with the cheesiness of Brody being, I guess, self-brainwashed by Al Qaeda and then wanting to blow up the vice president or some shit. Whatever the fuck happened there. Whatever shit that, if you said it out loud, sounds kind of silly and tacky.
Yeah.
But at least it goes from point A to point B, I guess. Let's say more. There we go. I want to hear the rest of those.
That's just great shit. That's a movie.
Right, and you can't. Can you do that every week?
No, I didn't say you can do it every week, but
I mean,
saying,
you know
but
what
I'm saying
like,
when the season's over, I need to walk away with more than just the soap opera.
An impactful moment.
Exactly. Now, I don't expect you to do that every week, but at the end of the arc, if you're telling a continuing story,
right,
at the end of that fucking season, you need to, bam, drop the mic.
Yeah.
You need to tell me a fucking story, not just ...
True.
I see what you're saying.
And look, while I'm
Very
watching it, I'm not asking for that. But the fact that it all just
Goes
disappears
right
once it's over and it's just sand on the beach.
Right. It's a different thing, though, right? I mean, this is the weirdness. This is the weirdness of the theater experience versus home.
Okay, here's where it's not a different thing. Part of the thing that makes it different is the fact that everyone's watching these continuing stories. Okay,
Marvel Universe, those are films.
If it were Bonanza, where it's just a set-up story, Charles Bronson shows up. He's a half-breed Indian, and he's working at the Ponderosa for a while, and he gets involved in an adventure, and then at the end, it's done. Well, on that show, you have the episodes that are maybe not so good, or episodes are whatever, they're treading
it's not
water.
one continuous story.
But then you'll have this great episode with Charles Bronson. Yeah. Or do they have a great episode with James Coburn?
They're almost standalone.
That could have been a movie.
Yeah.
They could have expanded that to a movie.
Right. They're standalones instead of just a long ongoing story.
And, the difference is that's episodic.
It's a long ongoing story that leads to the soap opera aspect.
Well, it's episodic, and television now has become completely serialized.
Yeah.
And so, somebody's going.
I just said Fast and Furious, just the sequels.
Yeah. Fast and Furious, the entire Marvel universe. Is it not one long TV show waiting for a ... at the end of it?
Yeah.
Waiting for the next movie to come out. Oh, God. Anyways.
Going in and they're pitching their show, even a really, really good show like Deadwood. Okay, Deadwood, I know what they probably went in, they pitched, and what they knew that they were going to make was was it Wild Bill? The Wild Bill story. And they've got Carradine and they know that story. And that show is fantastic as long as they're telling that story, which is like 6 to 8 episodes. Mm-hmm. Once he's gone, I don't think they had a plan. Mm-hmm. That was what they pitched, and it was like they pitched a movie spread out over a number of episodes. But it wasn't even the full.
He said it exactly right there. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Forget about pitching it like a movie. Pitch it like a complete story. Like, imagine someone coming in with a complete story in mind. And then if you tell them, expand it more, then it's like, now I'm just making shit up to make it all make sense. I'm trying to add time to it, but try to make it make sense to my original creation. That's where you end up fucking up, which can happen with movies 2,000,000%. It feels like I'm watching the same thing again with Rashad talking about college. You need college for this. You need college to do that. No, you need to experience that moment where you're, the guy or whatever. TV shows, you need someone. You need a complete story there. If they're trying to write in filler in order to, I say this all the time when we're watching movies. It looks like someone drew out an action scene, and then they try to write a movie around it. I want this really cool action scene in this movie. This will sell the movie right here. They go to the executives. They show them this scene and how they would film it and how much it would cost, the actors they want, the stuntmen they know of, and yada, yada, yada. I really want this scene to happen. Then it's well, what about the story around it? We'll just make that up when we get to it. We're just going to write a story that leads to this giant action moment and then concludes the action moment. It's wait a minute, did you write an entire show around this stupid little idea, this stupid little scene here? Or whatever. That's what I'm talking about. That's ass backwards writing to me. It's supposed to be a complete story, and then you can, I guess, maybe add action pieces here or there that make sense to the story. But the point is the story. That's the main point. With that missing, I don't understand, how could it ever be, quality? And that's not a movie thing. That's just writing in general. A guy who, like this guy just said, rolls up to the studio and says, I have a story here. It's a legit story, and I'll make it span across 8 or 9 episodes or whatever. But the idea is that there's a there's an entire story here. It seems pretty simple. Whatever. Here we go.
I don't think they had a plan.
Mm-hmm.
That was what they pitched, and it was like they pitched a movie spread out over a number of episodes. But it wasn't even the full season.
Yeah, but by that point in time, they have all the town characters.
Well, they've got everybody, but I would maintain that for the rest of Deadwood, after Carradine's gone, it's just things are happening. Stuff is happening. But I don't remember anything about that show. Other than the town and the various actors that I liked and on the show, but really,
the girl with the face tattoo.
Those first 6 to 8 episodes. I can't remember exactly what it was.
And the thing the thing about it is, I don't say all this, and the sum up of it all is it's useless. It is very compelling while I'm watching it, but it just doesn't compare to a movie, real story that stays with me for the rest of my life.
Okay. Well, there's plenty of shows that stay with me for the rest of my life, but that's because they have complete stories that I'm actually intrigued by. Right? You can even have like kind of rushed or shows with some filler in it and yada yada yada. That's also stays with me too, right?
Like when you say that, I think of Beef. Season 1 of Beef.
Oh my god! Talk about that solid fucking show.
But it has filler, right? It has a lot of filler.
It has filler that becomes more magical when you see the ending of the show, and it's like, okay, maybe the filler isn't so fillery, but it's kind of filler. I get what you're saying. I get exactly what you're saying. But it makes the filler feel special, I guess.
Yeah, there's some that don't need. It's just having fun, but
yeah,
it does make sense at the end.
Yes. But you don't know why you're there when you're watching it at the same time. It's yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. But it's also not it's not like Yellowstone where it's like a team up. When I say team up, I know it sounds like Avengers all the time, but I mean like a cast of characters where you care what happens to Deborah or Johnny on a given week or episode. Like, damn, Johnny almost died that episode. What's going to happen next week? Right? Like that's what I mean. Like an ensemble thing instead of a carefully crafted, contained story of all these characters interacting, and they have arcs, but the arcs only really showcase us learning who the character is as opposed to watching the character be created, which can happen too. That can happen too and be fine. But it's more so I like the idea of discovering what the character actually is through events, right? Something happens to Jamie to make him showcase that, like, oh, this guy has honor. He's not just a piece of shit, frat boy fuckface, right? He actually has some depth to him, or not depth. I'll say some honor to him, to the character. He's not fully a shithead. But he was already like that before we saw the show. He was already like that. We're just seeing it play out by events happening in his life. Or we see how really shitty Cersei is, or how shitty Tywin is, right? Or Joffrey, right? We actually get to really see how shitty these guys are. Or maybe sympathetic, or whatever the fuck you feel about the characters. You get to see it more just by them being in certain situations. I find that way more interesting than, we see, I don't know, like a 1-to-1 Batman sees parents killed by bank robber or by thief, thus he becomes Batman, and then like that's it. Like, well, you understand, right? He saw his parents die, and now he wants to fight corruption. That makes sense, right? It's like that's kind of tacky. I think you need to add like layers to it, right? But that's just me.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, all in all, I'm going to disagree with Tarantino. Especially, I mean, modern day movies are proving him absolutely wrong on his point. And why he thinks movies are better than TV shows? Guess what? Movies aren't doing so well. They're not doing so well at all. So, and some of the problems he's pointing out with TV shows or what's happening in movies, especially with the franchising and the universe building. Some of the problems he's talking about are happening in modern movies. It actually happens within one movie on its own, right? Where they do fucking like feel like there's like a lag in the middle of the movie or a almost like there's filler in the middle of a entire like one whole movie. Somehow it's filler in the middle of it. I'm like, who wrote this shit? Guess what? That fucking happens, man. So his problem should be his problem should be with writing in general. Forget about TV or movies. I get what he means traditionally in regards to movies and TV, but guess what? TV has become more cinematic than it used to be. A lot more cinematic, where you have actual careful eyes, right? As far as like with some properties and some projects, right? You have more careful eyes, more careful writing than what we're used to in regards to TV shows. And the way TV shows used to come out, right? It used to be like one pilot, and hopefully you get a couple more episodes to do it, or whatever the fuck. Now we're doing 1 day release, all 10 episodes at once. Like it's your whole vision all at once. That can happen as well. I'm not saying they're all good. I'm just saying, like, I think the standards are changing for what TV is supposed to be. Not saying people's standards are so good. I'm just saying, like, maybe you have to have a fucking famous actor in it now in order for your TV show to actually pop off. Which hopefully would mean you need better writing to attract better actors, but I don't think that's the case either. It's kind of a hodgepodge of bullshit right now from both sides, from film and TV. And yeah, there's no way I'm viewing like movies are just gonna be better than TV. It's just not the case nowadays. We're in a different era, Tarantino. And it is what it is. A different era, man. Anyone else want to say anything, please? Save me, please.
Joe Rogan has no hair.
True.
This is true.
It might be from doing TRTD or whatever you call that stuff. Whatever made his belly big too.
He's been doing TRTDICK, allegedly.
I heard allegedly bad things about Quentin Tarantino doing bad things.
Yeah, some interesting takes.
Some of those QAnon fellers were talking about him.
The QAnon.
I'm serious though. It was like there was a little bit of there. At least some sussy wussy stuff.
So about being in a different era, I can't remember like when this started to happen with these sequels, but like other than horror movies, like those you're just like you know what to expect. Like there's gonna be a number 5 and number 8. It doesn't matter. You know, it's the same thing. But
yeah.
But that's because your expectations are like you're going number 2, maybe 3, 4, 5. Your expectations are usually going to be crap, right? Like, but now it's so normal. Like I don't understand. I don't understand how we got here, but like the fact that they're doing it didn't change my mind about them being crap, right? Like it's not that it's not possible to do good, but it's like they're not even trying really, right?
Well, fuck. I think something like the Marvel Universe and Game of Thrones are some big shifters in the culture of making these type of properties and making them the way they make them. Because Game of Thrones is like a movie every week. It's a once a week movie essentially, right? You get an hour plus of some crazy story that could feel like a movie, and then next week's episode is just a sequel to it, kind of. Then you have Marvel, which they were blatantly doing the TV thing through movies, of like one episode leading to the other type of thing. And then I'm gonna be real with you. I think a lot of it has to do with dweeby comic book fans. It's like into this like universe. Everything's a universe. Everything needs a universe. Everything's universe building. Yada yada yada. I think that's played a large role where it's like their main attraction to these things is to watch, the character interactions, or will Scarlett Johansson fall in love with Chris Evans this movie, or in the comic book sense, like, oh well, Captain America finally get Thor's hammer this next movie or something like that, or when does Thanos show up and how badass is he? Like, I think that type of enjoyment of film instead of like a deeper storytelling thing leads to the universe building. I truly believe that, because it's just passing one movie off to the next. Maybe this one disappoints you a little bit, but guess what? There's another one around the corner, and you can just get your fill from that one. I don't know, man. I can't say, but it's something. I think it's something to do with that. Something to do with no real care for subtext or deeper storytelling, to where like now they're starting to siphon from plots. That's what writers are doing now, right? These kind of hired gun writers, right? These kind of mercenaries. Like their job is like they're siphoning now. The plot's not being siphoned off, instead of just like subtext and meaning of character and character arcs. Now it's straight up plot being fucking siphoned. It's like actually bizarre, but I guess I don't know. People enjoy it.
It's like they just go back to like they'll go back 3 decades. See, like, okay, what sold a lot? What was it? Like, oh, let's make like Jaws, like like a new one. They'll just make anything, right? If it sold a lot, let's make some money. So it feels like.
Well, you can make more money by getting, more and more ticket sales, or you can make money by hiring cheaper and cheaper talent. But make maybe a little bit less than you normally did with like $1 billion movie. Maybe make $800 million instead. But guess what? You didn't pay Christopher Nolan to make this movie, so you don't have to worry about that paycheck. You have to worry about fucking, some crazy writer or whatever the fuck. Right? You don't have to pay Daniel Day-Lewis, right, to act in your movie. You just get cheaper and cheaper with all of it. It is what it is. Although I'm sure the actors made a good amount of money, right? Like Chris Evans was like a kind of a B-level actor, right? And now he became one of the most famous movie stars in the world because he played Captain America. Because of the nerd circuit. The dweebos. It is what it is, man. I'm sure we'll diagnose it really diagnose this problem. I'm willing to hear all the different perspectives on why film / TV is such a dying art, it seems like. It seems like everything is, but these are two things I really love, film and TV. So it's like very interesting to watch its downfall and watch things that are actually very, very good that get no shine at all. They get no fucking praise, no notoriety, no begging for us to please make a sequel, please. None of that shit. It's just there and it's gone. And it's like, and then you watch the things that do get people begging for more, like Fast and Furious or Marvel movies or any of this shit. It's kind of bizarre. It's almost like people don't. I don't know. It's like there's nothing there in the first place for people, and they're just easily moved from one thing to another. It's kind of weird, but it is what it is. All right. Anything else before I end this video? Anyone want to say anything? I'm a dying poet, just throwing words out into the ether. That's it. All right. There's our reaction to Quentin Tarantino on why he thinks movies are better than TV shows. He's wrong, but it is what it is.